Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Business. This is your co-host, Amy Zander with CD Media, and I'm here with the lovely Lisa Fisher. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing fantastic, Amy. What have you been doing? Tell me what's been going on around town that you've attended.
Yeah, so I actually attended an event recently that was hosted by our guest today. It was a purse bingo fundraiser. It was so much fun. I'd never been to a purse bingo before, and it was also out at the North Fork Estates in Eaton Rapids, which is a beautiful event venue. I also had not been out there before. So it was really fun. It was very I felt, I don't know, like you drive up and the gates open and they tell you where to park, and then they bring you up to the thing on these golf carts. It's all very fancy. But and my youngest child went with me to purse bingo, and she loved it so much that now she's kind of hooked on bingo. So she wants to go to the next one. So it was really fun. Yeah, it was a good time. What have you been doing?
Cool. That's so cool. My husband and I stopped at the Blues Fest in Old Town.
Ooh.
That was such a good time. I always love live music. And so we listened to a couple of bands, walked around, checked out a couple of the storefronts and restaurants down there. It just had a really good time. It was really cool. That was a weekend where there were a lot of things going on, and you had to literally make choices. We had Tim Palmer on here that had the comedy show. We've had, there was another rock concert that was going on that same night. There were so many things that were happening, but it was a good time. Good time.
Nice. Awesome. So, Amy, our guest, what have you been doing lately around town?
Well, I did purse bingo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was fun. Gosh, I haven't, to be honest, other than tailgating and, MSU games, that's really kind of been my whole thing. And then, of course I do a wine and witches party every year. So that's always a big deal. That takes a lot of time and effort. So
yes, I'm going to be there. Yeah. I've been there the last few years. It's so much fun.
So anyway, I'm getting ready for that. And, other than that, we're just kind of, like I said, day in, day out.
Yeah. Getting into fall.
Take it as it comes. I know. Thank God it's cooling off. So,
well, we all know how I feel about that. So
I'm ready.
Absolutely.
I'm ready. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lisa, tell us who we got.
All righty. So you heard her, Amy Wilzeck. We have the owner of placement services at Oasis Senior Advisors. Amy is a recipient of the 2024 Top Advisor Award from Seniorly Advisors. And she received that because she demonstrated exceptional dedication to helping families with their search for senior living. She is a certified senior advisor, certified dementia practitioner, and she is also a proud graduate of the Leadership Lansing class of 2021, a certified tourism ambassador for Lansing, and a member of NACW, which is the National Association of Career Women. Welcome, Amy. We are so glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
So I am a certified senior advisor. Basically what that means is that I'm held to a standard of ethics that I help seniors wherever they're at. So if it's, they're having trouble at home, they're not thriving there anymore, or they're needing extra help, we have, like I said, the resources to help them. And then, of course, helping everybody that we possibly can, regardless of cost and whatever they are able to afford. So that being said, my services are free to seniors and their families. So, and we'll just jump right into the $1 million question of, well, how do you get paid? So we have agreements with most of the communities and home care companies in the area, and they pay me a referral fee to bring people to them. So, that being said, I also do a lot of pro bono work with Medicaid, veterans aid attendants, and people who aren't able to afford a normal private pay situation. So, but we can typically help most families find resources that they need and ways to actually pay for things. So we kind of go above and beyond as far as that goes. So, yeah.
So when you talk about the different types of resources, what are kind of like the top 3 or 4 that you could list off of
Sure.
resources that people need?
So, first of all, everybody needs an elder law attorney. If you're over the age of 65, you really need to talk to one just to make sure that all of your ducks are in a row, that you have your life plan, you have your, your DNR, you have your will, you have your power of attorneys, all of those things need to be in place, and somebody needs to know where they are. So, because there's a lot of families that we work with that, it's like they don't get involved until there's been a health event and somebody's in the hospital. And so they go on an Easter egg hunt basically through, that person's house, trying to find the power of attorney paperwork. Where is that life plan? Where is all of these things? And so we, obviously help advise them as to, okay, well, you have to find this. This is something that needs to be done. When was the last time it was seen? So like I said, it's making sure somebody in your family knows exactly where to find things is usually the best way to help when there's a problem, when there's, like I said, when there's a crisis. So, and if you have that done ahead of time before there's a crisis, it makes things a lot smoother, a lot easier. So,
yeah. So, can you give a couple examples or things that might be happening with an older person that would be signs that they might need more help than they're getting, or that they maybe shouldn't live alone or something like that? Because I feel like a lot of people, like, our age, our parents are older, but we've never been through this before. We don't really even know what we're looking for.
Right. And so normally what ends up happening with me is I get people in crisis, and it's usually after a holiday. So it's like, you'll always see me get super busy right after Thanksgiving, right after Christmas, right after New Year's, after Easter, 4th of July. Those are all times when families get together. And what ends up happening is that it's easy for seniors and people in general to hide something wrong in the background. It's easy to go, okay, it's not a big deal that, it's fine. The weather's fine. I'm doing fine. The house is great. I went to the doctor yesterday. Doctor said I'm fine. Everything is great and rosy when you're on the phone, but then you actually get there and, you go to get a glass of water out of grandma's fridge and it's like, okay, this tastes like soap. Why does this taste like soap? What little things like that you start to notice they're forgetting to do. I want to say that hoarding is a classic example, but that's not necessarily always the case, because a lot of times it's hidden and you don't see it. And like I said, it's usually after the holidays when people visit and they're actually in person and you can't hide what's going on.
Right.
Another thing to look out for is, are they remembering where they are? Are they, are they getting lost easy? Is it, and don't get me wrong, because it's such a fine, dementia is a hard thing to diagnose to begin with, because we all have certain memory losses as we age that are normal, and they're going to happen. But what you'll start to notice is that somebody's not remembering the day-to-day things. Like, what did you have for breakfast this morning? What did you forgot to put your shoes on, you got your slippers on, little things like that. Those are usually a key in the beginning. But yet they can recall 20 years ago like it was yesterday, like it was, just happened.
Right.
So obviously getting in to have a neurological exam is very important. When you start to suspect memory issues and dementia issues. But there's, I mean, a whole list of things that can go on. Aversion of water. They no longer want to bathe. They no longer want to shower. It becomes unimportant. They're shuffling their feet when they walk. They're not, taking actual steps. And there's some things that can be said that are physical for that. And then there's also a mental block happening there too. So, like I said, definitely talk to an advisor, talk to, a neurologist, psychiatrist. All of those things need to be diagnosed.
Yeah, I have friends that are going through this right now with their father, and he doesn't want to admit anything, but one of their first things they saw was that they got together for someone's birthday at a restaurant, and he had driven himself, and they noticed his car was very banged up in a lot of different places, and they're like, what's going on with your car? And so now they're like, you shouldn't be driving, and that's a really hard fight they're having right now.
And and that's a huge thing. Well, I mean, think about it. We all, we were 16, we got our licenses, and it was like freedom. I'm out. I don't have to stay wherever it is that I'm at. I can get in the car and go. And to take that away from somebody is extremely difficult. And nobody ever wants to admit that they're having problems, because they know, well, you're just going to put me away. You're going to send me somewhere I don't want to go. You're going to, and it's the unknown. It's, everybody's afraid of change.
Right.
I mean, even people that are like, oh gosh, I love change. It's great.
Certain things are hard. They just are.
Certain things are. But, when it's a major life change and you're happy in your existence the way it is, to take that away from somebody is going to be extremely difficult. And normally, if it is a case of dementia, then there needs to be, I don't want to say an intervention, because those are not helpful. It's more of a redirection. So when you're dealing with somebody that has dementia, you're dealing with someone who can't reason like they used to. So they may look the same on the outside, but really inside their brain, it's a whole mess and tangle of things that are just not, this part of the brain is not talking to this part of the brain. So you have to, like I said, redirect things. So, because otherwise, people just get, they're going to get angry. They're going to lash out. And that's when you typically see behaviors, is when communication is not happening.
So when we went through this with my father-in-law, one of the recommendations I had made to my husband and his siblings was recreate his living space, right? So because you can correct me, obviously, but the familiarity of my sofa, my TV, where my remote sits, so literally they recreated with less furniture, because he's got less space, but just trying to keep some sense of normalcy, I guess, for him.
Absolutely. And people have a misconception too, with assisted living and memory care. So, especially the older generations, they remember back when the state homes were dismantled, basically. And that's kind of the way they're thinking, that it's like, well, you're just going to tie me to a bed and I'm going to lay there and die, and that's it. And it's not like that anymore. I mean, especially in a private pay situation where somebody's actually, paying to be there, you're definitely going to have more creature comforts there. They're going to do your laundry. They're going to do your daily housekeeping. They're going to make your bed. They're going to make sure that you get 3 meals a day plus snacks whenever you want. And most of them are on a menu. So it's like restaurant ordering, you decide what you want, you make your choices. There's things to do. There's a social aspect that comes with being in those places that a lot of people miss when they're living at home on their own and there's nobody there. So, I mean, and don't get me wrong, because I relish having time alone in my home with no one home. I think it's fantastic. But at the same time, if I had to do that day in, day out, and the only person I saw was me looking at myself in the mirror, and then all of a sudden I don't recognize the person I see in the mirror. Those are issues. So,
yeah. So quite often the person who contacts you would be like the child of an adult, like an adult child of somebody who's like, okay, mom is having these issues, or mom fell or something. What do we do? What's our first step? And you just kind of walk them through the process of the decisions they need to make and their options and stuff like that.
Well, normally, I mean, like I said, the majority of people when they call, they're in crisis mode.
Right.
They're like, oh my gosh, we've let this go too long. This has gone too far, and now we need to do something. And mom's not going to like this, dad's not going to like that. This is, and again, we help with, first thing I usually tell people is, okay, breathe.
Right.
You gotta keep breathing, because if you go south, then they're going even further south. So taking the time to listen to what that person has discovered about their family member, and taking the time to help sort through everything that they're going through is a major step for us, because if they can wrap their head around what's happening and what's going on with that particular family member, they're going to be a lot more receptive to, okay, well, here are some options. This is what we can be looking at. Unfortunately, the biggest question and the biggest issue that I usually find with families is, what is this going to cost us? And it isn't cheap. If you let's say I'm never leaving my home. I'm going to stay in my home forever. We'll bring people in. Yep, that's what my dad wants, so that's what we're going to do. Most people don't understand that in order to bring somebody into your home 24/7, someone else, not a family member, but somebody that you're paying to come in and do these services, 24/7 care is going to run anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a month. And that's per month. That's not that's not like a year. I mean, so most people say, oh, well, I'm never going to send my mom to an assisted living or a nursing home. And I usually tell people, don't ever promise that. Because it's not a promise that you can guarantee that you can keep. So, unless you're just made of money and can just pay those fees, most normal people can't. So in order to get that 24/7 care, in order to get that help, and to be honest, the socialization aspect as well, is to go into an assisted living or a memory care. Now, the difference between the assisted living and memory care is going to be a secured location. It's going to be someplace that your family member can't just walk out the door whenever they want. If it's an assisted living, that's more open. There's a lot more freedom to leave, so to speak. But many of them are secured anyway, just simply because, safety reasons and, just the climate that we live in. So we got to make sure that, somebody's not just wandering outside. But, and the most of the time, I mean, most of these places, you can take your pets with you. You don't have to leave your pets behind. You go, take your cat, take your dog. There's going to be somebody there to help with those things. And most of these places do understand that that is very important for people, because that's a huge part of their lives. It's like having another baby. I mean, it's, they love their pets and they want to be around them. So being able to take somebody's pet is a huge, huge, huge benefit for them.
Right.
So, Amy, do you ever have a situation where maybe one of the elderly parents has the dementia or
Mhm.
Alzheimer's and they need the memory care, and yet, these people have been together 50, 60
Mhm.
years and they don't want to be separated. So, is there a possibility that the spouse that's not that
Mhm.
needing those services can come and live together as well so they can stay together? Or is
Oh,
that not
yeah,
a Oh, okay.
absolutely. And we
Okay.
have that happen a lot. And it's good because the more familiarity you have with someone,
Yeah.
the more lucid moments you're gonna have. So and holding on to those moments and making sure that you have as
Mhm.
many of them as possible, you know, during your dementia journey. Because the one thing I will tell most people, though, is that they often wait too long.
Mhm.
They wait too long to move into assisted living. They wait too long for memory care. They wait too long to go on hospice. They wait too long to start palliative care. I mean, all of those things. And the main reason is because people are afraid. It's scary. I don't know what that's all about. What if I don't like it? Well, the good news is if you're looking at assisted living or memory care, everything runs on a 30-day basis. So let's
Mhm.
say you get in there and one weekend you're like, I hate this place. Give your 30-day notice and you're done. You don't have to be there. You can, move somewhere else. You can move back home. There are options, but getting somebody into a memory care or an assisted living is very important early because it gets them used to things before the major declines happen with dementia.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you've also got the same thing goes with hospice. Nobody wants to go on hospice because they think, well, that's a death sentence. I have to only be able to live 6 months. And that's not true. We've seen people on hospice for 2 years. We've seen people
Mhm.
off of
Mhm.
hospice. So,
Mhm.
what hospice does is it just basically relieves a burden of pain. So, if your pain is managed, a lot of times people rally, they do better.
Mhm.
They're, now you can't have life-saving treatments, you can't stay on chemo
Right.
and be on hospice, but you could also go on to palliative care, which is basically hospice without the death sentence. So,
Mhm.
and you can still continue your physical therapy, you can still continue all of the
Mhm.
things that you were doing. It's just that they're gonna manage that pain. And, when you're not in pain, it's amazing the things that you can accomplish. So,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
So, Amy, do you only do memory care and dementia, Alzheimer's placement, or do you do
I do
all
everything.
types of placement? Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. That's what I
I
thought.
just I tend to lean towards the dementia side because that's my, I guess, expertise, so to speak,
Mhm.
because I have gone through that certification to become a dementia
Right.
practitioner. So a lot of what I do is helping families basically relearn how to communicate with their family members.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, um, because again, you're looking, this is my dad. He's great. He was the strongest man alive and he was wonderful. And then to see him decline to the point where he doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very difficult for families and they don't understand what's going on in his brain. So we help to help navigate that so that he's not so unfamiliar anymore. So,
Well, I mean, you had mentioned fear earlier, but I
mhm,
think there's also, like you just were talking, a sense of denial, and not just from the patient's sense of denial, but
mhm,
that daughter, that son, that family member that's noticing these changes. We don't want to believe that about
right.
our parents because they're the rock, they're the strong,
Right,
all of those
right.
things, and yet I think when you're waiting too long, you are totally doing a disservice.
Mhm,
You can extend that quality of life because for me, it's about quality of life, right? So
Absolutely. And the three main things that you have to remember is that, ultimately everybody, you want to be happy, healthy,
Yeah.
and taken care of.
Yeah, safe.
Safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be those are the three main things. I mean, and as long as those three things are being met, then great. You might be safe at home, but you're miserable because you're alone.
Right.
Right.
Or you might be happy because you have your family and all those things, but it's not a safe environment for you. There's a lot of trip hazards. There's no way for you to get in and out of the building because there's stairs. So all of those factors, we take into consideration when we're talking to families as well.
Yeah.
And and it goes along the lines too of people need people. And
Mm-hmm.
people with dementia need people with dementia. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when you talk about denial, those families say, "Well, my dad's not that bad. He's not that group of dementia. He's not he needs people. He needs people he can talk to. He needs, this conversation." And that's true to some degree. But once you have dementia, you start to realize just how bad you have it when you're talking to people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the people who don't honestly have a harder time talking to you
Oh
because
yeah.
they notice and they see, and then it becomes an awkward situation. In the very, very beginnings, yes, everybody can hide it. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
the further along you go, the more people are going to notice. And so that's why I say that dementia needs dementia, because it's a heck of a lot easier to see somebody who's in late stage dementia and you're in the beginning stage and go, "Well, I'm not that bad." I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Right.
it's easier to say that than it is to go, "Gosh, I'm like the most behind person in this room." And, then you shut down at that point. So,
Right.
yeah.
So do you do consultations with people that maybe some of our listeners are like, maybe I should have a
Yeah.
conversation. Do you consult with others and help them through that?
Oh, absolutely. And we do that all the time. And like I said, but my services are free. So I'm just a phone call away. You can, give me a call and just say, "Hey, this is what's going on with my mom and dad. Do I need to be concerned about this? Should we
Mm-hmm.
be looking,
Mm-hmm.
where should we be looking? What should we be looking for?
Nice.
How can you help?" That sort of thing. And like I said, it's free to have a conversation. So, and we do that all the time. So,
Good.
Do you have
Go ahead, Amy.
Do you have advice that you could give somebody who maybe is a adult child of somebody who, like, you're like, I really think their parent needs more help than they're giving, or like, like somebody who doesn't want to see it? Do you have advice of
mhm.
something you could say to them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's a very delicate conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously you don't want to tell somebody, "Well, you're doing it wrong."
Right.
It's
Sure.
like
Yeah.
you don't want to be that person, but at the same time you do need to bring some recognition. And usually the conversation winds up that they make the aha moment, like, "Well, what about this? Are they doing these things?" Or is it hard to, "Well, she keeps falling." Okay, well, let's look at that. Where is she falling at? Well, she's falling in the bathroom. Okay, well, are there rugs in the bathroom? Is the bathroom large enough to accommodate her moving around? I mean, there's all kinds of different things that happen. And obviously falls are a very big, big problem for seniors, because your bones get weaker, and a break can mean it can be detrimental. And anytime somebody falls and has an injury, that's, I mean, you're opening everything up to a dementia diagnosis coming forward that most people don't realize they have. And so then all of a sudden it's like, "Gosh, she was fine until she fell." Okay. So then it kind of presents itself. And, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we help people all the time. We can help you find durable equipment to like put shower bars in your house,
That's
add,
good.
you know, ramps and things like that outside to make sure that you can get in and out of your home. Because obviously the main goal is to stay in your home as long as possible.
Yeah.
That's where
Right.
people are comfortable and that's what you want. But at the same time, if it's no longer a safe environment, if they're no longer thriving, if they're not eating properly, if they're not, because maybe they can't see anymore,
Yeah.
or they can't, hear the doorbell to get to the door
Right.
or the phone, things
Mhm.
like that. Those are things that need to be addressed. And
Yeah.
yes, there are lots of different options and things that we can, bring into the home to help maintain that for as long as possible. But ultimately, like I said, don't ever tell somebody that they can stay in their home forever because it's
Right.
not feasible.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So just to recap, your services are free. So people can call
Yeah.
you and have a consultation
Mhm.
with you, and you
Mhm.
help them find whatever they need. So they should not hesitate to get a hold
No,
of you
not at
for
all.
Right.
any reason. Yeah.
Right.
Because some of us have,
Conversation's free.
because some of us just have never been through. We don't know what to do. We've never been through this before. Our parents
Mhm.
are,
Sure.
not. It's the first time they got old, right?
Right,
So,
Yeah.
right. Like, wait, when did that happen? I
right,
don't
right,
remember getting old.
right,
So, yeah,
right.
no.
Yeah,
And it's not for the weak, for
right.
sure. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
We all struggle and we're all going to go through it. So eventually
yeah,
it's going to happen. But,
yeah.
and me, I have absolutely no problem talking to people. So absolutely give me a call. I'm happy to talk through whatever's going on.
Nice. And for our listeners out there, we'll have Amy's contact information in the show notes so you can look it up there. And Oasis Senior Advisors they're a national company, and you have your branch here, right? The Mid
Yeah,
Michigan branch. So they're all over. Yeah.
we're our franchise. So we do
Mhm.
have national connections as well. So
Mhm.
we also work, our sister company is Silver Assist and
Oh, okay.
Elder Life Financial. And so we can help with aid and attendance and bridge loans and all the fun things that everybody's going, okay, how do we pay for this? So we
Right.
can we
Right.
can help find those options as well.
Cool. Well, Amy, is there anything else that you want our listeners to hear before or to know before we wrap up?
No, just that you guys are awesome. I absolutely love your podcast and
Thank you.
it is so fun to listen to every time. And like I said, I'm thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
No.
Everybody needs to know that you're out there and your services are available so that they can get the help they need.
So, and
Yes.
I can help
Yes.
everywhere from Owasso to Charlotte, from Grand Ledge all the way over to Brighton. So
Okay. Mid Michigan.
I have a
Nice.
big swath of space to help.
Perfect.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today. It's just been I've used your services. My family has used your services, and
Yeah.
I couldn't be more grateful. And just what you do, it takes the burden, I think, off, especially when there's more than one sibling, right? I mean,
Mm.
and you're the voice of reason. So
True.
thank you for
True.
all that you do. So
Yeah.
glad.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah. And thank you to our listeners for joining us again on another Adventures in Business here in Lansing. And if you have a family member, a loved one who is starting to show signs of either dementia or maybe not being able to live alone or just needing more assistance in their home, please reach out and contact Amy Wilzeck at Oasis Senior Advisors. Her contact information will be in the show notes as always. So we appreciate you. We release new episodes almost every Wednesday. So you can find us at zdmedia.com or our YouTube channel. And as always, go out and make it an adventure.
This is a Zedia Media production.